Okay, it fits. This is pretty cool. I'm excited just the fact that I have this shaft mounted. It is true. It's 12 inches from the crankshaft on centerline on both sides. And it was sitting on parallels when I tacked it in place, and it's just tacked. But now I've got some thinking to do. I've got some planning, and I have to figure out one more reduction, at least one more reduction. I have some fixing to do. I gave you all some kind of wrong information in some of the past videos about the brake shaft and how it works. I showed you 8-speed brake shaft assembly, and that runs on 3 different shafts. And so I couldn't figure out why on the ground it ran opposite directions, but on the Snowmotractor it ran the same direction as the input shaft. Reason being is this is a 3-speed transmission. The brake shaft on this is that middle shaft of the 3, and so it's only running against the differential bull gear, so they're doing this. So I can run still my brake shaft or my input shaft. The input shaft needs to be sped up. The brake shaft needs to be slowed down because I have such a big gear ratio difference. If I do the input shaft, I can still shift, I can still have reverse, and that's pretty cool. If I do the brake shaft, I'll only have forward gears, but I could gut a lot of the transmission and gain more top speed based on the idea that there will be less drag. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I've got to just look and see what fits. I've got to look and see what makes the most sense as far as pulley speed and belt speed. Remember, this will be spinning about 93 to 9400 RPMs if this engine actually maintains 8,000 RPMs. And so I have to keep that in mind because that's my drive pulley for the next set of gear reductions, one way or the other. It's a 1-inch shaft. I have all kinds of room on both sides, but I also want to add a brake, if I can, somewhere on this shaft. I really don't know if I have room because the exhaust is close over on this side. I've only got about a 4-inch diameter area that I can work with before it hits the exhaust. And we'll see. I'm also really glad that there's room for my foot. I'm going to have to build some type of a massive shield here because that's a lot of RPMs, that's a lot of rotating mass, even though this is aluminum. I would hate to see this thing fly off, tear me up, tear somebody else up, one of my kids or an innocent bystander. So that is definitely going to have a safety feature somehow, some way. So now I've got this jack shaft tacked in place. It's not permanent. Hopefully it will be, but I haven't confirmed that yet. I got thinking, if I'm going to run through the input shaft, I'm going to have to spinning that input shaft about 14,000 RPMs to get my gear reduction through the transmission to get me 50 miles an hour. If I reduce it down to another jack shaft here and run to my brake shaft right there, I end up with a gear reduction through here and a whole lot slower input shaft speed here. So these are kind of my calculations. At optimum RPM, I'm going to be running 93.33 on this jack shaft. All right. I found a 2.85 inch pulley, and I'm going to run that to a 4.95 inch pulley via a belt. I'm probably going to do like an automotive style V-belt and something that has some more grip than a fabric covered garden tractor belt. And then from this jack shaft here, which is sitting here, it'll go down there somewhere, I'm going to be running a 20-tooth sprocket. So I'm knocked down to 53.74 here through this reduction. And then I'm going to run to a 40-tooth sprocket, which will cut this in half again. My 11 to 43 gear ratio here on that brake shaft to the differential bull gear is going to get me 687 RPMs here, and that's a little over 60 miles per hour. And so I just want to hit 50, and I'm assuming there's going to be drag. I'm assuming that this old engine is not going to hit 8,000 RPMs. I'm assuming all these things that'll probably make the 50 more realistic. Another deciding factor for why I don't want to spin this 14,000 RPMs is it's moving quite a bit. So something in this bearing's already screwed up from trying to spin it so fast already. I don't know if it was like that before or not, but now I can completely eliminate this whole gear set up here. And I'm only going to be running one set of bearings on a big shaft to another set of bearings on a bigger shaft, and this gear reduction is in a safe speed, so everything's going to be good there, and I'm pretty excited about all of that planning and outcome as long as it works. So while I wait, I'll be waiting. I can't really decide on what belt I want without knowing where I want to put that secondary jack shaft. And I have like 10 foot of chain coming, so I have plenty of that. And so it's really just going to be, what do I need as far as a belt length? Where do I want to put that secondary jack shaft? And, you know, what's going to keep this thing safe? Then I'm going to need to build guards. I still don't have a brake set up yet. And, you know, we hardly ever use it on the snowmobile. But this, I think, has a little less rolling resistance than a sled does, with the tire being here, the contact patch here, versus a tread length or a track length that's, you know, as long as a snowmobile, a few feet. I think brakes are going to be pretty important here. I also don't know if I want to do like a hydraulic brake like the snowmobile has, or if I want to just keep it simple and do some type of a foot lever brake and mount it somewhere that it interrupts, you know, the whole power transmission at some point. We'll see.